totally separate entities. So this might be one of those, despite Christian Horner denying it strongly, and he's probably got to do that, but he has got to do that. You might find a four-car play there at some point, depending how it all shakes out.
You might have seen an advert for F1 the movie in the tunnel on the formation lap. That's out on June the 25th. This is real life, and no one's written the script for this one today. The last 4 Monaco Grand Prix in the dry have been led from start to finish. Well, Lando Norris and his family will be hoping to make that 5 out of 5 today. But there is a long way to go here before McLaren can think of a 16th
So, Monaco.
the record constructor here around these streets.
It's straight, you can see it's a bit banana really, but it's
Leclerc was very close yesterday. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
it's gaining an advantage down there.
But anything could happen today because in Monaco now it's mandatory to have 2 pit stops and there's always safety cars. So anything could happen. Leclerc might still win this race.
This time last year, Charles Leclerc was
They're lining up now
came home to take that historic
to get started. I think something is going to happen. Monaco Grand Prix is on their way. 5 lights. Here we go. I think something is going to happen in corner 1. Oh, huge lockup from Lando. Huge lockup. They almost touched. So, but no, Leclerc is right behind him. He's hunting him down. Yeah, the lockup from Norris is not good. He's gonna have a lot of vibrations. Oh, Bortoletto's in the wall. Yellow flag already. Maybe that's gonna be a safety car, an early safety car. Bortoletto's already and Behrman. Behrman is pitted. Bortoletto is in the wall. Oh, okay, green flag. So Bortoletto actually reversed or backed up. He's still in the race, not out.
completing the first lap. Lando Norris has the lead of this Monaco Grand Prix by over a second from Charles Leclerc into the pits. Does come Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly for Alpine and Ollie Behrman. And the virtual
Bortoletto gets going.
been deployed. You lose 21 seconds for a
People already pitting because of the VSC, eh?
you lose 10 seconds.
Talk about dream scenario for those that had intended to pit, as we talked about all through the pre-show. Some cars pitting instantly, you can't pit till the end of the first lap. Now they've got a cheap pit,
So whoever pitted
and this is
already achieved one of the requirements, which is basically you have to have 2 pit stops for Monaco this year. So now they're taking advantage of this VSC and knock off 1 pit stop.
so they were swapping hard compound for hard compound. Antonelli's gone up the inside. Bonafide overtake, but it's obviously called for to let. So I suspect they had Ocon's tyres on the front. This is Bottas gone round the outside of
Antonelli might get a penalty for this.
Antonelli's decided he's having it straight back again.
Yeah, Antonelli might get a penalty of this. Kimi, yeah.
Did he? Was he far enough alongside the Sauber on the inside while trying to overtake to make that?
Also, if you notice, like the top 5, 6 different tire strategies.
So his front axle had to be alongside, at least alongside.
Verstappen, of course, is betting on going long, of course, to take track position and hold first place. Because in Monaco, if you're first, technically you should win.
So virtual safety car, and the drivers will poodle around at 40% of their racing speed. The race, in effect, gets neutralised.
Why is the VSC still
By
off?
pitting has come out now 5.5 seconds behind Lance Stroll. So that's a nice bit of clean air for him to drive into and to increase his time rather than getting stuck behind others.
I still think Leclerc might jump Norris at some point. Norris has a huge lockup in corner 1, which is basically flatten his tires. He's gonna have a lot of vibrations. He's not gonna be as quick as he should. It's not over for Leclerc. The VSC is still on, by the way.
Stage of the race, despite having 2 new sets of that hard
Still on.
contact going into this race. Looking at those barriers as the cars file past at Portier, and the marshal's going to have to rearrange those a bit, make them a touch safer before we get going again.
I would leave them personally because it's not a high risk area.
Yeah, and honestly, there's not much damage
I don't think that's necessary.
on the barrier, so I don't know why they're taking so long. It's so unnecessary. From the looks of it, of course. We can't see yet in person.
It's a 50-mile-an-hour corner, but race control will need to be satisfied that the drivers have the protection that they need before.
I think there's gonna be a penalty for Kimi.
We'll see what the report is from there. I mean, there's several layers of that, but yeah, as I say, I don't think it's a high risk area that they need to literally switch this race off for. That would then obviously everybody then that gives everybody a free. Not that that's the reason to or not to do a red flag. Would give everybody a free pit stop. So
Yeah, there's the replay. Oh, they got going again. VSC's over.
Norris got away well, but in the second phase,
Leclerc almost jumped Norris, which actually caused Norris to lock up.
Verstappen as well. So both McLaren struggling a bit, but doing well in racecraft to maintain position there. But as we saw Lando then, this is a horrible lockup with full tanks of
Yeah,
fuel.
lockup, huge lockup.
Little flat spots on both those front tyres.
Yep.
You run about 56% from brake bias. That's why the front axle locks up rather than the rear axle. And Lando did well to get off the brake pedal and turn the steering wheel.
And unlike in Imola last week, Oscar Piastri fends off Max Verstappen.
Here's the replay of Kimi. I honestly think there's a penalty for Kimi.
Here's Kimi Antonelli. The gap's there for him.
He found a gap, but he kind of pushed Bortoletto into the barrier. So
But thought better of basically succeeding the place to Kimi there.
Yeah, there were two opportunistic overtakes as the virtual safety car is ending. So we wait. There we go. It is. We're up and running again. Yes. So it was opportunistic from Bortoletto and then opportunistic straight back again for Antonelli, but he was far enough up the inside.
Leclerc is right behind Norris.
Penalty for that, and Karum's telling me that Lando said nothing about vibrating tyres at the moment.
But now he's up to racing speed. We'll see what the radio messages are. Into Sandoval we go, racing now here in Monaco on lap 5 on 78, making the steep climb up Beau Rivage towards Massenet and onto Casino Square. Lando Norris leads Charles Leclerc. It's McLaren ahead of Ferrari, and they're a long way clear of Oscar Piastri already.
Exactly. So we've got one answer already. The leaders.
Verstappen, Alonso, and Hamilton are going long.
There's Piastri, as you say.
They want track position after the first round of pit stops.
That's an interesting gap there. 22.4 seconds, Norris to Tsunoda. If Norris was to pit now, and McLaren put in one of their usual speedy pit stops, he'd come out just ahead of Tsunoda. If Tsunoda can match the times of Norris, that can put a bit of pressure on the leader, who may or may not get out ahead of Tsunoda when he pits.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to do that, and then there's a safety car 2 laps later, or something, would you? So that's the lottery of today. Absolute lottery.
Yeah, you just don't know. That's the variable.
Ticket on the grids. Opportunities are there for you. There's the current tyre situation. Anyone who was on the softs at the start has got rid of those, which is not a surprise at all. You need to run 3 different sets of tyres, 2 of which have to be of different compounds. No further investigation. Antonelli and Bortoletto for that incident, but saw the Sauber into the barriers, and Lando Norris starting to move ahead, out in front. Second and a half clear of Charles Leclerc, and he's out of any threat of DRS behind him, but the gap all the while increasing to Oscar Piastri. And McLaren's words coming into this race and how they were going to run it will pursue the team's interest, but will preserve the interests of both drivers. So it's about the team first, but we don't want to disadvantage the drivers.
No, and there'll be several phases to this race, but Piastri then 2 seconds a lap slower. That is absolutely clear that he is playing a team game there. So Norris and Leclerc will get out front and build, even if they catch back markers, those back markers are duty bound to get out of the way under the blue flag. So they can build the gap out front and get a pit stop for those 2.
Karun Chandler, Sky Race Control.
Yeah, Coffee, it's illustrated by the fact that group led by Tsunoda, who pitted on lap 1,
Now it's a waiting game. You gotta wait for the pit stops, see what's gonna happen. Essentially, Norris and Leclerc, they have a huge gap ahead of Piastri. They're like up on the road by themselves, and they're still not pushing too much.
Today for his teammate Charles Leclerc and build a gap.
So Behrman at 14.8, Norris at 19.1 still on the previous lap. I mean, 4.3 seconds of that, Behrman faster than Norris the leader. That's going to catch the attention of the front-running teams.
Well, the thing is, there's a 37-second gap between Lando Norris and Ollie Behrman. I mean, can the leaders afford to tyre manage in the way they are? Or are they having to? Because the tyres will drain otherwise.
Yeah, well, it won't be very
Yellow flag.
It's not easy, not difficult to catch.
Somebody crashed.
He's gaining 4 seconds a lap on that.
This could be another safety car.
10 or a dozen.
If there is a safety car now, I think the top 5 will pit, or top 4.
And Lewis Hamilton not making an impression on Fernando Alonso and that Aston Martin. Esteban Ocon running very close to Ferrari behind here. So this Hamilton starting to make a bit of a gap. He was 7/10 slower than Alonso on that previous lap, and he was round about 2 seconds slower than his teammate Charles Leclerc. And we're looking now at George Russell, who's 13th, and Kimi Antonelli 14th. The helicopter looking down as at Mirabeau they swing right-handed. There's a real queue of cars here, and it's trying to get out of this queue of cars that is going to be the key here between success and disappointment.
So Ollie Behrman is what's called undercar, changed tyres and going a lot faster. Everybody, including Lawson in P9, if they were pitted now, Behrman would be 9th at the front end. So it's really working for him.
Maybe this is a mistake on this, on the live timings. Oh, here it is, the yellow flag. But oh, Gasly. Gasly's out. Gasly's out. He crashed. I think he looks like he's driving it back to the pit stops.
Absolutely told to park him straight away. Because you got no brakes. You're obliged to park that.
They said Gasly, he has no brakes.
So Gasly has hit the wall here. He's not going to park it straight away.
He's driving it into the pits. Looks like Gasly didn't want to cause any safety cars for anybody.
Around the track, he went straight into the back of Yuki Tsunoda, I'm being told. We'll get a replay in a moment. That will be Pierre Gasly out of this race.
Oh, there'll be debris over
Oh yeah, there is debris.
debris everywhere.
That could be a VSC.
Big risk for a puncture for the leaders.
And that was Max Verstappen, and Oscar Piastri is all over the back of him, out of the chicane.
Yeah, because
Ted, down to you.
He can't stop. Gasly can't stop. He's had to be stopped by some other mechanics because he's got no brakes.
Oh, he got no brakes, yeah.
That was so dangerous. So dangerous.
So what we saw going out on track is that Piastri was slowing down for the double yellow flags, which are one step short of a red flag, and he almost lost out there to Max Verstappen.
So the double yellows are being waved around the Nouvelle chicane, and we saw the debris on the track. Let's have a look at the incident. Into the tunnel we go. That's Yuki Tsunoda ahead of Pierre Gasly into the daylight, dropping down under braking.
Yeah, no brakes.
Amazing that hasn't damaged Tsunoda's car. So what happened is he lost the brake, he lost the tail under braking. But the pit, even if there's a safety car now, pit entry,
Oof.
he so nearly took his teammate out as well.
Yeah.
So what happened there is he locked the rear axle, Gasly, and just couldn't slow down.
And
That's a strong Red Bull, that's what that is.
isn't it just? And there's the front wing, or part of it, flying across Yuki Tsunoda. It's the idiots. Well, what was the reason for that? There was no overtake on, that is for sure.
No, when we were on board, you could see the back end of the car. He locked his rear axle under downshift and braking. Clearly, it's unfixable. He should have carried on down the end of the escape road and got out of it. He'll be in a lot of trouble for that. But I mean,
So So the pit entry is closed. Nobody can pit. So I assume there's debris at the entry to the pit.
And there's a car in no man's land as well as this. So they put a new front wing on it. They're not going to put it out in the race again. But that's so they can put the jacks under it to get the dolly wheels underneath to move it out of the way.
We're back racing, so
Yellow flags around the track.
no change up ahead.
We are green and we are racing, and it's clear that if Piastri is trying to make a bit of a gap, Verstappen is not very happy to sit behind the McLaren of Oscar Piastri, and he's trying to get past him.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, he nearly
Keep an eye on Verstappen. He's only half a second behind Piastri.
But you would have taken my front wing off. He did it in space. What is that? We would have crashed. There you go. I had the right to be there.
Yeah.
Listen again. Listen again, mate.
Okay.
I'd like to see it again. We caught, I think, the tail end
Yeah.
of what was going on. Ted, let's head down to you. We're going green again. The yellow flags have stopped waving. Ted.
Just very quickly, I think there's going to be a penalty for either Gasly or Alpine or both. Maybe even a grid penalty for Spain. That was not on what Gasly did. He should have stopped out on track. Maybe he could argue he was trying not to cause a safety car for everyone else, but that was just, so dangerous for everyone else. Back to this fight for you.
It's a great fight as well. Max Verstappen in hot pursuit of Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, who's got a bit of straight line advantage, but even with DRS, at about 16 kilometres an hour of extra pace, Verstappen can't get past into turn one.
And Verstappen knows exactly
And Leclerc is in Norris's DRS, so keep an eye on that. Look, I think Leclerc. Let's see. Yeah, no, he's a bit slower than Norris.
Piastri was saying there were double wave yellow flags. He's trying to overtake me, so there's all a bit touch and go in there. Let's have a look. There's your double yellows.
So we
Which
can't
means
overtake.
you've got to slow down. And there you can't go again until you pass the green flag. And they haven't got to the green flag.
Correct.
So I don't think Piastri will be in any trouble for that one.
Yes, he was obeying the flags, which is what you must do at all times on this lap. Piastri has moved a bit further ahead of Max Verstappen. It's a second, the difference between Norris and Leclerc out in front. As the championship stands at the moment, there'll only be 3 points difference between the two McLaren drivers going to Spain, which is the next race on the calendar. Isaac Hasler still rides in fifth.
Ferrari gotta undercut Norris.
Second behind him.
If there is no safety car or a red flag or anything. At the moment, at the first pit stop round, they have to undercut Norris, which means they have to be as close as possible to Norris.
It's 6 Monaco starts with Pierre Gasly, and it all came to an end with a big crunch down into the Nouvelle chicane.
Do you think the car in front respected all the yellows? We are discussing, we had noticed that.
It's not often Fernando Alonso misses anything.
No, and what he's recognising is Hadjar's a long way up the road since the yellows.
So once this gap starts going down, that's when Leclerc essentially is using all of his tires to pit and undercut Norris. So this would be the telltale sign. Once this 1.4 start going down, extensively going down, this means Leclerc is prepping to pit and undercut Norris.
Because he's now right at the back of that train that Hulkenberg was in.
There was a great risk of a safety car there, a full safety car, I thought, because there's a lot of debris on the track. It's a high risk for punctures for the leaders as well. And you don't want to puncture through somewhere like the tunnel here, 160, 170 miles an hour. But as you're probably working out now in this Grand Prix, it's not about just watching the top 3. It's about watching all 19 of those still out on the racetrack.
Yes, because Pierre Gasly has retired and he'll be investigated after the race by the stewards. Haroon, down to you.
Yeah, just got an illustrate copy that lap 1 pit stop, but getting the cars out of the
Oh.
green.
Hadjar is in the pits. First one to pit on the medium tires from the top 7, top 8. Let's see where he's gonna come out.
But Nico Hulkenberg has ended up 11 seconds behind Gabriel Bortoleto. And that's what we were talking about before the race. People, if they got a PSC early on, those at the back doing that early stop that would help them. Colin Pinto's come in now. He's going to drop the back. Just one other thing, there's a nice gap opening up in front of Liam Lawson. So between Lawson
Yeah.
and Ocon,
If Hadjar gets out in front of Lawson, then that's a very good pit stop.
seconds in that gap.
So that might be a window that McLaren could look at. It would be an early pit stop, but he's got to pit again, Martin, so it's not necessarily a disadvantage. And Lawson is under huge pressure here from Alex Albon.
And Lawson's doing the job, I believe.
think Ferrari gotta use that gap to their advantage. The gap between Lawson and Hadjar
So on board with Alex
to undercut Norris.
Nouvelle chicane. He certainly got a pace advantage over Liam Lawson. Can he find a way to try and get past the other Racing Bulls? Career best start, a 5th on the grid, the highest ever start for the team here in Monaco. Now pits. Where's Hadjar going to come out? They will hope it'll be just in front of Liam Lawson, his teammate. 2.7 second stop. That's pretty neat. Soft tyres have gone on, and out into the sunshine comes Isaac Hadjar ahead of Lawson.
Ferrari also gotta use Hamilton. If Hamilton can slow down everybody behind him, then he's gonna open up a gap for Leclerc to pit and get out in front of him. So that's a lot of strategies which Ferrari are not known to be good at. So
And nor does Verstappen. So we got into this race with McLaren having the ability to go medium, hard, hard.
For Isaac Hadjar,
What do you want me to do? You want me to keep pushing? We'll stay, we'll let him go. Plan B, stay with Norris.
stay with Norris. So they're planning to undercut Norris. If Ferrari are telling Leclerc stay with Norris, then they're planning to undercut him. But now they have to use Hamilton. I think that if they use Hamilton, it would work. Alonso's pitting on a hard tire.
He's rejoined 8th in front of Lawson. So
That's too early on a hard tire.
teammate Liam Lawson, he created a gap.
That's strange.
Pit onto the
Ocon as well.
and go right back.
Okay, now it makes it easier for Hamilton to open up a gap for Leclerc.
surprised we've not seen a Russell or Antonelli make an early pit stop here. They're kind of just stuck a little bit in midfield at the moment and not trying to make.
I think Alonso pitted because they were worried about Hadjar undercutting them. I'm not sure if Hadjar was ahead of them at the time. But,
Counter strategy. That's a very unusual shot. I don't think I've ever seen.
either way, he lost the position to Hadjar.
Cam giving us pictures and the helicam too, looking down on the leafy avenues of Monte Carlo and the expensive apartments. No one's sunbathing on the roof gardens unless they get a view of the track this afternoon. We're on board.
There's a good gap between Hamilton and Hadjar. There's 17.9 seconds. Pit stops is around 22 seconds.
Are they going to come out anytime soon? Are they hoping for a late safety car as Fernando Alonso
This gap they gotta
into the
use.
pits, for Aston Martin, and on go a new set of tyres for him, or a different set of tyres. Hard compound, he had to just stop there because Ocon was making a pit stop at the same time. Didn't want to be released into the path of the Haas. Ocon was a little bit sticky getting away himself.
Hamilton gotta play the team game. He gotta slow down and
So the undercut work there.
create a big gap.
For Isaac Hadjar, normally it's an overcut race, is the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, so we're watching this one. What it is doing is starting to free up the leaders for some opportunities as well. Norris now within 1 minute 14.
What did you need to leave? Talk now, is this our race?
Push now. So Ferrari are not using Hamilton. Or they're probably gonna ask him to push now to extend this gap, yes.
6.4 second gap.
Okay, if he pushes even more and basically build this up to 22, 23, then they will they will get Leclerc to pit.
3 seconds on Hadjar. He cleared that group, but not just Hadjar, but also Alonso and
Yeah, no, true. Hamilton shouldn't slow down, should actually pit. It should actually push. So 19.9, we gotta push more. 20. Once this, oh, he's pitting now. Wow,
They have kind of split the strategy and had decided to go
that's Ferrari. Typically, the car ahead gets the advantage in the pit stops.
Alonso can't push now because he's right behind Isaac Hadjar. We're riding on board at the moment with George Russell. That's Carlos Sainz ahead of him and Norris.
So they use the gap now between Hamilton and Hadjar so they can pit him. So Hamilton gets ahead of Hadjar. Let's see. Then there is a gap between Verstappen and Hamilton. 25, which Leclerc might slot in.
Now completed his pit stop cycle, and they obviously think at Haas that he can go to the end of this race without needing to pit again. It's the medium tire
They have
that's gone off.
a healthy gap here to pit Leclerc and undercut Norris.
A pit stop for
Oh, here. Norris is pitting because he's using this gap. Ferrari gotta pit now. Ferrari gonna pit now for Leclerc to use the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen.
That's a big ask. To go 50 on
They
that
missed it.
the medium compound tire is hard for Lewis Hamilton, and he should come out ahead here of Isaac Hadjar, who's just making his way.
If Leclerc doesn't pit the next lap,
And along the main straight, Hamilton at 60
then he gotta push as hard as possible. But he's on 19 laps of medium, so
onto the track, and he has leapfrogged Isaac Hadjar and up into 5th place. There's the racing balls behind it.
yeah. I think Ferrari made a mistake in the pit stop. They should have undercutted Norris right after Hamilton pitted.
dominating the race, but I didn't think we can make that decision until the end, frankly, when we see how it all plays out.
What is
Ah.
happening here, Martin? Liam Lawson is holding a lot of people.
Leclerc got a pit right now.
Trying to get
Otherwise,
that trade, but on the hard side.
he lost it.
Here's Lando Norris, race leader, about to come into the pits. He's led this race from the start. Charles Leclerc carries on and will now take the lead. Oscar Piastri carries on. Will take
Hadjar pitted again. So Hadjar essentially used those two pit stops. He's okay. Piastri's pitting.
And I'm going to get a feel for how
Now basically Piastri is undercutting Leclerc.
front-running
I think Ferrari messed it up. Ferrari messed it up, the strategy.
play on these before they need to stop again, so they can open the window as wide as possible to scoop up a safety
Yeah.
car.
And the even better thing for Lando Norris is that at McLaren is that he's actually got new sets of that hard compound tyre. So he's got another one at his disposal when he pits again. Hadjar pitting again. Short second stint for him.
Leclerc is gonna be like P4, P5.
Talking about
That's
Mercedes, doing
messed up.
further down the road, but they're already over 2 pit stops behind time-wise.
Yeah, I don't get their strategy today at all. And I'm sure they'll explain it to me later. But that's a really good second stint for Isaac Hadjar, who on the soft compound tyre was only on them for 4 laps. He's got his pit stops out of the way, comes out into the race on the hard tyre to the end, and his teammate Liam Lawson.
It's weird. They should have pitted him. They should have pitted Leclerc right after Hamilton.
For Hadjar to get those 2 stops out of the way, he's looking good now to the end of the race. Oh, Piastri, that's a very, very long stop for Oscar Piastri, about 2 seconds further than he would have, longer than he would have wanted.
And that gives Red Bull a chance, doesn't it, to leapfrog Piastri.
Now they're hoping for like a
Lap of his life
safety car.
to make up that 1.5 seconds he's just lost there.
Piastri comes out then, ahead of Lewis Hamilton, but he's lost time now to Charles Leclerc.
Yes, indeed. Needs good pace on the outlap, because that's, as I say, opened up a window for Max Verstappen now to get his right foot.
So if Leclerc pits now, he's gonna be ahead of Hamilton, behind Piastri. Essentially, he lost a position to Piastri.
It was rear left,
Yeah,
Oof.
just wouldn't tighten up, I think.
yeah, he had to have a 2 bites at getting it tight. And there we go. Right,
No. He actually would be ahead of Piastri. Would be ahead of Piastri.
because if he pits, he'd come up between Norris and Piastri.
Yeah.
Does he try and stay out to do something different to go for the win? Or do they go for this gap and stay where they are second place? They're all sitting down and looking at the Ferrari mechanics right opposite on commentary box. They're all still sitting on their chairs.
Now he's pitting. He's gonna be basically between Norris and Piastri. Yeah. They didn't achieve anything in this first round.
He stays out. Max Verstappen has stayed out too on the hard tyre. I think Red Bull just trying to run their race.
The advantage that he would have is like a fresher tire compared to Norris.
He got a medium and a soft to stick on for his second and third stints. They're even yawning in the Red Bull garage. They're going nowhere for a while.
Certainly, the only chance I think Leclerc and Verstappen have got of beating Norris is if they can pit under a safety car.
Yeah.
Stay out, do something different, stay out as long as you can. Because if they can gain that 10 seconds with a cheap pit stop when everybody's going more slowly around the racetrack, but they've decided to bring him in. But that is, they're nervous then of the undercut, as you say, with Piastri coming back at him as well.
So we're watching Charles Leclerc on track. And Oscar Piastri is just making his way through the tunnel currently. So if Leclerc pits now, the prediction is that that will be the gap to Piastri, which should be nice and safe to get Leclerc back out comfortably ahead of the McLaren. Who get to work, not go the mediums, not go the hard side out. Was simply magnificent from the Ferrari crew there, who have had the fastest pit stop.
Hamilton got a push because when Verstappen pits, at the moment Verstappen would be ahead of Hamilton. If Hamilton pushes and closes the gap to be less than 2, he would basically jump Verstappen.
Yes, it takes a bit of a while. They come out of the blankets at 70 degrees C, then you travel down the pit lane, and then you've got to get them back up to where you need them on track around 100.
Yeah, Verstappen is not going to be pitting anytime soon.
Time as well. That's why Norris is disappearing down the road.
If a safety car happens now, it's his advantage.
But it wasn't enough.
But the key for that lap from Oscar Piastri is he should now be ahead of Max Verstappen as and when Verstappen makes his first out of 2 pit stops. We're on board with Esteban Ocon. Fernando Alonso is the car ahead of him. Both of these drivers have stopped. The one behind them is Isaac Hadjar. Might be 10 seconds behind Esteban Ocon, but he's in nice clean air at the moment. He's lapping about 2 seconds a lap quicker, and he's completed his 2 pit stops.
And let's remember that because of the way that Verstappen and Red Bull used his 13 sets of dry tyres up through practice sessions and qualifying, Verstappen has to use a soft tyre at some point. He's got to go onto it in one of the 2 pit stops. That's a big disadvantage. Unless, of course, there's a mad rush from a late safety car at the end of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen plenty of those over the years here in Monaco.
So now it's didn't work very well. So plan is keep the safety car gap on Hamilton. Go with Leclerc if you can.
Where is the car ahead of Oscar Piastri? And we'll see how they're...
So now Piastri is doing to Leclerc what Leclerc was doing to Norris. The difference is McLaren can execute the strategy, Ferrari cannot.
With Esteban Ocon, Alonso, the unluckiest man in Formula 1, he says, still hasn't scored a point in Formula 1 this season. Looking good so far this afternoon.
And what Piastri's frustrated about there is he was obviously being used to make the gap earlier on, and now the undercut hasn't worked for him, and he's like, okay, well, what are we going to do now? He's annoyed, but Ted's got more news.
Yeah, it didn't work for him, but it did work for Lando, didn't it? It just preserved anything that might happen to Lando's lead in his early stop. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Fernando Alonso is quite interesting for me, sort of holding up Esteban Ocon, Hadjar. But, yeah, I'm still loving this Hadjar strategy, as you are, Crofty. I mean, maybe it might not be a podium, but it's going to be somewhere close. Such good thinking, and, yeah, set for some big points.
And now Verstappen might just have got that pit stop jump on Oscar Piastri. James Vowles is on the Williams pit wall though, and he's with us this weekend. We're trying to get our head around the strategy, James. How do you think your strategy is working out at the moment?
Yeah, it's not really. As you can see, there's a team game here being played by B-Carb, so Lawson slowed down about 3-4 seconds a lap, gave the gap to Hadjar, who's managed to do 2 of his stops. It's 2
Yeah,
stops,
yeah.
whilst holding back.
That's what Ferrari should have done
the field. So,
with Hamilton.
difficult times for us. I think P9s or anyone could be fighting for outside of that.
Could you not just get one of your drivers out of that train then?
If you do, you get stuck in the same train as Sonoda. Sonoda stopped, if you remember, right there on that one, so he's already got 1 stop out of the way.
So
So
you,
effectively, they're waiting for us as well.
yeah, and you're waiting for a late safety car?
There's a few things that can fall our way. One of them's a late safety car, but I have to say at the moment, we have to acknowledge Jar's not both stops, so whatever happens, it's very difficult to get anywhere to him.
Is it fair game, James, the team play? Is that
Of course it's fair game.
when you've got 2 cars in the race each?
Of course.
I think that's what happens when you create these regulations. We discussed it. It's interesting, exciting that people stopped on that one, but you get 2 cars qualifying together. That team has to, given how close this championship is, play the team game.
James, thanks ever so much. We'll be back with you in a little while. That explains then why we're not seeing movement from Williams and probably not from Mercedes as well. Even the likes of Ollie Behrman, who's stopped twice, now getting onto the back of that train, and everyone gets slowed down as a result. Now this is very, very tight, isn't it?
I think Red Bull have to give up on the safety car hope and pit Verstappen now, so they can jump Piastri. That's at least 1 win for them.
He has, and he is doing so, but 14.9
It doesn't seem like there's going to be a safety car anytime soon, so it's better to pit Verstappen now and use the undercut on Piastri before that gap is going to go soon. Piastri is pushing.
There's your team game, isn't it?
Yeah, you need a calendar to time that, not a stopwatch.
You can see George Russell's frustrations there, but I think Williams is starting to play that same team game. We've seen it in the past here before. We've seen it Kevin Magnussen allowing Nico Hulkenberg to get a point in Jeddah.
Norris closed the gap big time on Verstappen. It used to be 9, now it's 6.
Liking it. No, these regulations. I'm not liking
Yeah,
it.
no, Verstappen is way slow. 116. The guys behind him at 114.
I
So.
don't want to see drivers all the way through the field playing a game, and this is about excellence. This is about
I think Red Bull as well missed the opportunity
motorsport.
to
I don't see so many drivers.
to undercut Piastri. They were hoping for a safety car.
It has its usual challenges. Cars wide, streets narrow, tyres need managing as well. You need patience, but you need to try and force things to happen. You've got to try something. Once again, have the engineers found a way to engineer the fun out of the race?
Yeah, I wonder if they should have said you must take one stop in the first half of the race or first third of the race. But we'll see how it pans out a little bit later. A long way to go. We never even officials yet. So,
There's a train behind Sainz where he paused. That doesn't sound right. Verstappen is pitting now, but look at Sainz. Everybody's just lining up behind him, slowing down everybody. Verstappen, I think he's gonna get out in front of Hamilton. I think he lost the opportunity to undercut Piastri. Here we go. Yeah, Piastri. Yeah, in front of Hamilton. They lost that opportunity. They were gambling on a safety car, which is fair, but they gave up on it, and now they gave up on it quite late. Obviously, they should have gave up on it when they had the opportunity to undercut Piastri. But hindsight is 2020, so it is what it is.
Of the train that has Sainz down to Hulkenberg, so that will slow him down even further. And out come the Red Bull crew into the pit lane. Max Verstappen is going to be pitting as he makes his way around Raskas. No,
no brain. He's got to pit. He doesn't want to catch that little lot up, does he? Surely. Yes, there he is.
there he comes.
Now Leclerc gotta close the gap on Norris
Comes into the pits now
and try again to undercut him in the second round of pit stops.
and a very slick stop. There goes
There's a good gap
2.3 seconds.
between Hamilton and Alonso.
Verstappen. Here comes Charles Leclerc. Next car is Gabriel Bortoleto being lapped by Oscar Piastri. Piastri is still there.
Essentially, Hamilton can pit now
Of Max Verstappen.
and basically use the second pit stop, and he can go to the end of the race. But
Verstappen on the medium compound tires. They have the grading up a little bit as well. But
he has to put the soft tires. The soft tires is not gonna last.
fuel low, but I think they've not got the optimum Red Bull, say, tyre availability unless something bizarre happens in the last few laps and those used soft tyres he would have to put on. Doesn't even have a new set of soft tyres, Max Verstappen.
There goes Oliver.
Here, the gap between Norris and Leclerc is closing. 5 seconds. 4.9, 4.8. He's hunting him down. 4.7.
Major contact and a hit into the barriers. Karun to you.
And he's on fresher tires as well, so 4.5.
Positioning at the moment. Lewis will clear Hadjar, so Lewis will be banging us a good pace here, and he should come out comfortably in front of
He's that quick because he's a kind of a fresh air. There's a good gap. 3.9. He's pushing. 3.8.
Can Lewis Hamilton catch Max Verstappen?
And Norris as well is kind of slowing down now because he's in the lead. Maybe he wants to preserve his tires. Yeah, lapping. Norris is lapping at 117s. So
And I think Ferrari fancy their chances on tyre wear over the Red Bull. Race leader is stuck right in the middle of all this. You can see Lance Stroll and you can see Ollie.
I see. Norris is stuck in the behind the back markers. That's why it's helping Leclerc close this gap.
launches his Haas car into the air, and that could have been a dangerous moment.
It tears the eyes, that one. And there comes Leclerc then on the back of the pack as well. So quite rightly, Lando Norris. So it's an automatic system as well. They start getting blue light on their steering wheel when a car gets within 3 seconds. And within 1.5 seconds, if you pass 3 blue flags, and don't yield, you'll get a penalty.
Medium tyres on Ollie
Yeah,
Bennett.
didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why he had to go over the curb. He had a massive slide on the way in, had to counter steer into the slide, and it sounded to me like it actually jumped out again.
It did a little bit. I must admit.
Is he going to go up the inside into the tunnel? He is. So, next up then for the Norris is the two works Mercedes.
Well, he's cleared one of them.
One already. And now he's got, that's going to break George Russell's heart. Every bit as much as the car failing on him yesterday in qualifying is now going to be lapped.
And there goes Lando Norris to lap George Russell for Mercedes yesterday. Bitter disappointment. Only the second time in 13 years that neither Mercedes car made it into Q3. That's not what you want at a place like Monaco.
Oh, this is a true.
So there's another one complaining about the blue flags. But the trouble is,
Yeah, the blue
where
flags
can you move over? Where
kind of
can you
gave
move
Leclerc an
over?
advantage,
Where
then
can you
it took it
pick up
away.
the least amount of marbles off your tyres
Yeah.
by going off the racing line?
You can be a lap cleaning your tyres up if you go off the racing line, but it's not fair to make the leaders go off the racing line either.
This is why I say ban blue flags. It punches everybody up, makes it really exciting.
I don't like blue flags, but you got to have them here, otherwise nobody'd ever get past, would they? You catch the back of the pack and you'd be stuck there.
Yeah, but just think how much closer the pack will be together for the entirety of the race, and who knows what's going to happen. This is a little rundown for you. Who hasn't stopped, who has stopped once, and who's got their pit stops out of the way. If you're just joining us, it's all a bit different here in Monaco this year, because it's a mandatory. You run 3 different sets of tyres, so at least 2 pit stops in your race. Lawson pitting again, and that'll be for the first time in this race. Liam Lawson running the medium time for 30 laps.
And he's going to go back into a horrible amount of traffic as Liam Lawson.
However, he's done the job for his teammate, Isaac Hadjar, by keeping all of those at bay and behind Hadjar.
Actually, he got out just ahead of Sainz. I thought he was going to be behind that pack. He's got through there as Lawson.
I should play on the game Monaco Grand Prix 1972.
Not before he was born, but I think they know what he means. So, Hamilton's got a free pit stop behind him to Alonso.
Yeah.
Alonso said
Hamilton can pit, but he's got to do like half of the Grand Prix on soft tires, so it's not gonna work.
Beltoise, the winner of the 1972 Monaco Grand Prix, as I'm sure you all knew. Lawson's done the job for his teammate. Sainz doing the job for Albon, who's going to be coming into the pit and will hope to jump a few cars when he gets out of his stop, in his first stop of the race.
Before you ask me, no, I wasn't in the 1972 Grand Prix.
Watching at home, weren't you?
Wasn't that much later than that, though, was it?
Good point. 40 years of service to Formula One broadcasting, and we were so chuffed with your OBE, Martin. Congratulations. Really, really, really worthwhile. And you should be proud. Alex Albon and the Williams crew. Are they proud of that pit stop? There goes the Racing Bulls of Liam Lawson into turn 1. Albon hasn't managed to clear Lawson, and he's going to get lapped by Charles Leclerc. He does come out in 10th place, so it's no loss, it's no gain, but you can see there, just moving over, how he had to get onto the marbles and pick up little bits of rubber onto his tyres. It'll take him a lap to get rid of those.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he's busy trying to get those up to temperature, as I explained before. Ted Scossimonius.
I mean, it's worked. So, as James Vowles said, they're racing for 9th position. So Alex, it's worked for Sainz's tactics, but how is Sainz going to feel about that? He's a proud man, he's a proud racer. He's not the only teammate who's going to be asked to do a job, do the team job today. It looked promising to start the weekend, and then all sort of went started to go away in qualifying, and that's what's put him in this position, is just being the sort of active helper for Alex Albon.
I think, Ted, as I on the radio saying, "And what do you want from me now?" You know, he's statistically comfortably the greatest of all time, but he had to play the game as driver B because he was second on the grid.
Yeah. George Russell did a 1:19.3 on the previous lap. He crosses the line for a 1:21.1, and I mentioned that because he got lapped on this lap, and that's how much time he lost. 1.8 seconds out of his race time by being lapped, which shows you just how being lapped can affect you on one lap, let alone having to unlap yourself a bit later.
And of course, if he did,
Now again, it's a waiting game. You gotta wait for a safety car or something,
he's parked those tyres.
because it's just a train of cars driving around.
6.5 seconds the gap between Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. Then a gap of 5 seconds back to Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen threading his way through the back markers has now cleared Alex Albon and can set after Oscar Piastri once again. He's running in 4th. Lewis Hamilton running in 5th, and he's having to make his way now through those back markers. He has a big gap though back to Fernando Alonso. It's a free pit stop really to Alonso, even if they didn't stop around about the
12,
same time.
14.
Runs in 7th and catching Fernando Alonso, and remember he hasn't got to pit again.
If Norris pits now, he would be ahead of Hamilton.
Alex Albon currently 10th of the last points.
Of course, he's not gonna pit now, but
Flying out front, now got a 6.
maybe Ferrari's changed the strategy now. Instead of undercutting Norris, they're now gonna overcut him. Essentially, Leclerc would drive slowly on purpose to create a gap between him and Norris, to give Norris or his team the illusion that they can pit and get out comfortably in a good gap. And once Norris pits, Leclerc would start using his tires and push as hell.
Losing a couple of seconds on the last lap to Max Verstappen. So the team's having to try and work
The
out
probability of
for Monaco.
a safety car happening later in the race is less than at the beginning of the race.
Liam Lawson backing the back up for his teammate Isaac Hadjar.
They must take that into consideration.
Backing the back up for his teammate Alex Albon to preserve their places in the race. Well, that's now adding to the lapping of other cars taking place a bit earlier and losing so much time in your strategy.
Still 19 cars running then. They all seem to be on the same piece of racetrack there behind.
Leclerc is quicker, 1:14.0. Norris is 1:14.7.
There's currently no one between Portier and the through ball entry.
I truly think Leclerc has to save his tires now. Give Norris the illusion that he has a gap to pit.
Sliding there for George Russell through that final corner. Hamilton, Russell gets a little bit closer there to Carlos Sainz, but you just can't see a way past. Not with these cars as big and as wide as they are now. As into the pits comes Gabriel Bortoleto for the 3rd time in this race.
Of course, he had a new front wing, didn't he, as well, from the shot early on. But I think Sainz is having to back up again to try to ensure Albon gets a point or two.
Albon has pitted, Sainz hasn't, Russell hasn't, Antonelli hasn't. They're the 3 that haven't been into the pits yet. Karun, to you.
Yeah, just looking at the gaps there, Crofty. Isaac Hadjar and Esteban Ocon, you mentioned they had both done this.
Oh, yellow flag.
So really the race is for Ocon
That's
against Alonso. At the moment,
should be exciting.
16 seconds.
It wasn't too long.
It's sort of fluctuating. That's
Never
what
mind.
they're watching. Hadjar should be on course for 6th place, so that'll be a great result for him. Not very good for Mercedes.
No, this has been a day to forget so far for Mercedes. It will be a day to remember for Isaac Hadjar, the man from Paris, who would be on for his best finish in Formula 1 so far if he can get that 6th place in the race, beating his 7th in Suzuka. Ted, to you.
Right, I've got the line from Mercedes. This is what they're thinking. They're thinking that the only way for them, starting where they were, sort of 14th, 15th on the grid, to get into the points was to go long and just see what unfolds.
Why is Alonso dropping? Maybe he has a problem.
It's the same. You haven't scored any
Yeah.
points, so it's irrelevant whether you are 11th or 19th or 20th.
Oh yeah, his car is smoking.
Fernando Alonso is pulling out to retire. Look at that.
Yep.
That, as disappointing as that is for Fernando Alonso, he has gone straight to a gap and has got his car out of the way. So we can cover this under yellow flags without the need for a safety car.
I wish he caused the safety car.
And that tagline saying of the unluckiest man in Formula 1 continues, and it continues here at Monaco. Alonso's out of the race.
So I wonder if that was the power that we were afraid of. A lot of people, engineers in pit lane were afraid of before the race, but we'll hear from them. But yeah, just finish on Mercedes. If they'd stopped earlier, it would have solidified into pretty much the position they are at the moment, and they're just going to see how the team games ahead of them play out. As we see Ferrari making a second stop.
Are they thinking there might be a safety car, but Hamilton's got a free stop behind him anyway. They're wondering if they can grab a bit of safety car there, but Alonso has been so smart in the way he parked the car that that's unlikely to happen, and Mercedes team think exactly the same thing. And Albon then still 2.6 seconds quicker than Sainz. Albon will get another free pit stop, but that didn't make sense on the Mercedes thing to me, because they should have split their strategy. They've done exactly the same thing with both cars, and they're well over a lap behind.
I know, Martin, when you split the strategy, one's going to be right, one's going to be wrong. But on a day like today, aren't you better getting one right than both right?
Yeah, because they're...
The gap to Leclerc is 5.0. If we can use some more points, we should, please.
No reply that we can hear from Lando Norris. And he has just upped the pace by setting his fastest lap of the race so far, albeit 1/1000th of a second slower than Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, they're nervous of, let's say, a safety car being thrown just as Lando's gone past the pits, for example, and Charles Leclerc is just before the pit entry, and Ferrari being able to take that, so they're trying to put McLaren under pressure on Ferrari now.
Just to clarify, Lewis Hamilton didn't pit. Ferrari are allowed to come out into the pit lane, prepare for a pit stop, and then not do that pit stop. It's just that they leave
The gap between Leclerc and Norris is 4 seconds. Maybe Norris is going through traffic again. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Just under 5 seconds, 4.7 seconds. The gap back to Oscar Piastri, widening all the time. He's currently third, and there will be 3 points between himself and Lando Norris at the end of this race, if things stay the way they are. Max Verstappen running a solid job on the medium tyres, currently his 4th fastest, 11 laps. Those medium tyres have done. If Alex Albon gets that much closer, or any more closer to the barriers, his medium tyres aren't going to last. And Lewis Hamilton running in 5th, and that sadly is Fernando Alonso walking back to the pits. Pointless after 8 races, his worst start to a season in 10 years.
Verstappen in the 114s as well now, still just 15 seconds off the lead. That's a good lap time from him. Sainz continues to hold the pack up behind him. But Mercedes are in danger of being lapped twice in the not too distant future, having neither of the cars pitted yet as well, with 2 pit stops still to do.
It's just as the strategy goes on, it becomes more and more unbearable, I'm sure, for the team, for the drivers, and their many, many supporters around the world. Just apropos nothing, I guess get one of them out of that train and get them into some clean air.
I think they're a day late and a dollar short on that. They're where they are now, aren't they? Unfortunately for the Mercedes team, it was all about Antonelli with touching.
It's a good point. I didn't notice that both Mercedes haven't pitted yet. That's wild. They gotta do 2 pit stops in the last 20 laps.
I think that, yeah, Albon will come into the pits in a couple of seconds. I think there's a nice gap between Hamilton and Sainz on the track, and also coming into the pits, Liam Lawson. So the crews are going to get to work here, Martin.
Yeah, and then Sainz can get on with it then, finally, once Albon's got this out of the way. 10.
So this is absolutely for position, and it needs to be perfect from Toro Rosso, from Racing Bulls. It is, but why didn't Alex then, as behind, just stay out? All he's guaranteed is to secure Lawson the place ahead of him. Why on earth didn't Albon stay out?
Well, he
They're
wasn't,
both done now to the end of the race, aren't they?
but he wasn't going to beat Lawson in the pits. Everything was normal unless there was a mistake in the Racing Bulls pit crew.
Yeah.
And now he's stuck behind him on the track again.
That's it.
So all that work that his teammates done has come to absolute Badger will be scoring 8 points, Liam Lawson 4 points, and that'll be enough to take them ahead of Haas on 22 points in the championship. So there are your tyre changes. We see 2, 3 that haven't come in so far. Sainz, Russell, Antonelli. Yeah, and normally we'd be saying in the Monaco Grand Prix, well, that's pretty good. They might be on to leapfrog into the points, but they've got to make 2 stops, not just the 1 for this afternoon. And we're on lap 43 of 78. Time is running out.
Yeah. So Norris got the lead up to 5.4 only, and Leclerc keeping him honest. But again, if Lando pitted now, he comes back out in 4th place, and we'll see. They're going to want to wait now. Wait, and see if there's a safety car, virtual or actual, or indeed a red flag. They get a free set of tyres at that point. So there is no point in them. As long as they've got pace, they haven't got issues with the tyres, they should stay out as long as they can. Norris, Leclerc and Piastri for Verstappen too.
Piastri with the fastest lap in this race so far, 1:13.8. His last lap was a 1:15.1, and that was about half a second slower than Charles Leclerc ahead of him. Carlos Sainz going through on Alex Albon there.
So what's happening now is it's now Albon's turn to hold up the pack, let him through, darted in front, and he's got to now return the service.
That is a proper team game. Piastri slid into the void,
Ooh.
didn't bang the barrier a bit. Going through...
Piastri almost crashed.
A few leery moments, hasn't he, this weekend, Oscar, on the throttle.
Consistency has not been his buzzword.
And Kimi cut the chicane.
That chicane, and he has been on those tyres. Kimi Antonelli from the start. They've done 42 laps. You know, the Formula One equivalent of cricket's forward defensive now sees Alex Albon make way.
I don't understand Mercedes' strategy at all.
And Albon will be doing the
They forgot about the pit
Sainz will
stops.
be putting his foot down to see if they can jump Liam Lawson there. And whatever you make of that, I'm sure we'll discuss after the race and on the F1 show tomorrow. James Vowles on the Williams pit wall. It didn't work with Sainz holding up Albon. Are you trying to now leapfrog Liam Lawson with Albon holding up everyone else for Sainz?
So Carlos did a fantastic job. He let Alex do both of his stops. Alex is now good to the end of the race, and now we're going to do it the other way around. This isn't how I like to go racing, but that's what the rules have created.
So have you lost too much with Carlos now? Do you think he hasn't done a single pit stop yet? So is that sort of game over for him?
No, not at all. No, you'll see now in the next 5 laps, Carlos will get a pit stop gap, do the first stop, and then we'll get a second stop with Carlos after that.
You say it's not how you like to go racing, James. Is this an experiment you can see being taken forward next year here in Monaco as well?
I don't think so, not without some tweaks, because I don't know what it's like to watch at home. From my position here, this is a difficult afternoon.
I bet it is. Thank you so much for joining us. I would imagine lots of people, like us, Martin Brundle, were hopeful of something a bit different to the way it's panned out.
Well,
Yeah.
let's just remind everybody why there was a change made. Because last year there was a red flag on lap 1.
Verstappen is really closing the gap on Piastri, and Piastri is struggling on his tires. So Verstappen might actually jump Piastri. Keep an eye on Verstappen.
Reset of tyres under the red flag, and then race to the end without any stops. Top 10 finished in the same order they started the Grand Prix, and it wasn't ideal to say the least.
You can't knock people for trying. I'd rather see the sport try something and it not work out than not try anything at all. But what tweaks would you make for next year just to try and stop what we've seen this afternoon?
I think I've been saying all week, really, I'd mandate that the first stop has to be taken by a certain time, maybe the first 20 laps or something like that, so we can stop some of these shenanigans, because it just doesn't feel fair, does it, that drivers are going out there to intentionally slow down 10 others.
Ted, down to you as Hulkenberg exits the bits.
Yeah, that's a strategy. I mean, Bortoleto had to stop early. Bortoleto has made 3 stops, which is really going some today. He's taking that rule to his own. Of course, he had a problem early on.
And the thing is, Ted, he is well ahead of his teammate who's only made 2 stops.
Yeah, I know. What it has done, this rule, is make the top 3 go for it. So they have been pushing. I've been stop. Yeah, there is a bit of jeopardy for Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Verstappen and Hamilton.
Talking of jeopardy for Norris, he's about to catch the pack now held up behind Alex Albon. That'll cost him a lot of time. McLaren won't ideally want to is that pack. McLaren won't ideally want to risk a pit stop in case there's a safety car, so he's just going to have to plough his way.
Adjar is a full minute behind Hamilton.
We have to remember also
He's in a
that
different
Scottish Grand Prix, almost always
country.
The leader holds the entire field up, so that nobody can get a pit stop gap behind them, don't they? So it's not unheard of here. It's quite fragmented in this case.
Piastri spitting. Okay. He's gonna trigger this off. He's been struggling on these tires, so
DNF in a Monaco Grand Prix.
So 8 cars, Lando and then Charles Leclerc have got to overtake now. Lando's got one of them, look at the back, and that is quite the queue.
He will be Alex Albon, the car that George Russell is behind. If Lando Norris has now just caught this back and he's going on for another lap, should Ferrari have come and pitted Charles Leclerc so he doesn't have to go through that and they can make up a bit of time?
Yeah, but if they were to do that, and then there's a safety car, they're done with Piastri and possibly even Verstappen.
Well, Piastri is
oh, Leclerc is pitting.
the championship leader. Now's a very good time
I
to come in
think
because
I don't know. It's
as well. And that stop was
I don't think it's
faster
right
than his first stop in the
time
race.
to
And
do
they
it.
found a nice gap behind Hadjar and Ocon. But the trouble with that is that Hadjar has stopped twice. So Oscar Piastri has pitted, comes back out into the race, and in fact Esteban Ocon's pitted twice too.
Okay, push on Max. Let's go.
So Oscar Piastri comes out into the race here behind 2 drivers that don't have to stop. So he's going to have to get some overtaking done.
They're lapped, aren't they?
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah. So they'll have
That
to
bit I hadn't looked at.
skedaddle out of the way.
I knew that something had catch me out today. Just for one moment, I'm thinking that could be the worst strategy going. But Verstappen now to push on and get past the flex button.
Here's a good stop by McLaren. However, we now have a safety car window over them. So let's go.
Karoon to you.
I think Piastri had to do that because of Lewis Hamilton dropping. He's come out just 2.7 ahead of Hamilton, who was running at a reasonable pace. So McLaren, I think, were a bit concerned that if they had an issue on the stop again, he could have gone back as Leclerc has come.
Norris is pitting.
2.2 seconds. They've had to respond.
The only hope for Leclerc is that McLaren messes up the pit stop for Norris.
And Piastri back out onto the racetrack. Now will Hadjar get through into Sandoval ahead of Charles Leclerc, even though he's a lap down?
Yeah, so nothing is gonna change. Norris gonna win the race. Leclerc second. Now we gotta watch for Verstappen. He's either gonna be 3rd or 4th.
Is ahead still of Lewis Hamilton, but still a few seconds, 5 seconds or so, I think, back to where he needed to be.
And Lewis Hamilton can hit at any point. He's got a minute gap behind him to Hadjar at the moment and not lose out, as we see this time George Russell going straight through the chicane. Surely he'll have to give that place
Yeah.
back, won't he?
Well, nothing
Have a look and see how
interesting, honestly.
inspired.
The race is gonna end Norris P1, Leclerc P2, Verstappen might be P3 or P4,
Leclerc pitting and fresh tyres.
and Piastri either P3 or P4,
Now's a good time for
unless something tragic happens. But I think this is it.
That's a good start. He should be comfortably ahead of Leclerc. Leclerc was 5-6 seconds behind him.
Yeah.
But you know what might be happening with Russell there is if he gets a 10-second penalty, he's way better just getting down the road and taking a 10-second penalty than looking at the gearbox of another Williams.
fair point.
Yeah. Same with Antonella. I don't think Mercedes now is gonna pit either of their drivers. They're gonna take the penalties because even if they pit now, they're gonna be like dead last. So it doesn't make any sense.
Before you get to Tabac, turn 12, that's what the race director
They missed the opportunity to pit.
George Russell didn't do that, so he's just, I think, like you say, I'll take the penalty because I'll make up the time.
Yeah, I mean they're going so to go.
He's going to take the 5-second penalty. I think intentional qualifying. I think it is, or it's definitely allowed.
Just a reminder to the stewards there who are investigating George Russell for leaving the track and gaining an advantage.
Bear in mind the stewards have a range of penalties they can apply when they look at the mitigating circumstance or otherwise.
Just looking at the Red Bull garage, there's a bit of activity going on. Thought for a moment that we're going to get some tyres off the racks and service match for Verstappen, but Verstappen is carrying on, as you can see, for another lap. He's 5 and a bit seconds clear of Lando Norris, but he has to make a pit stop. If he did it now, could he come out ahead of Oscar Piastri? That's the key. That's George Russell cutting the corner. Oh, sorry, Kimi Antonelli getting very close to the barriers.
Avoiding pretty good power. His son got the brakes. So we need to give that position back to Albon. I'll take the penalty. He's driving erratically.
It's going to be an interesting Grand Prix Drivers Association meeting next time around.
It is, but honestly, I mean, as I say, the penalties available are 5-second penalty, 10-second penalty, drive-through, or a stop and go, which costs you over half a minute.
I don't think the stewards are too keen, are they, on drivers saying, yeah, I absolutely did it, I had to do it, whatever you want, throw it at me. Valtteri Bottas, reserve driver for Mercedes, looking on from the pit wall to see George Russell disappearing down the road now, and he's got quite a gap on Alex Albon already, and his teammate Kimi Antonelli stuck behind the Williams still.
VP is reserve driver for Mercedes, McLaren, and Williams, I believe, isn't it? Or Aston Martin. Three teams anyway. He's probably looking at them all going, you're all still going.
He's a busy man, or not a very busy man, depending on what happens over the weekend. 18 seconds, 15.7 seconds now between Verstappen and Piastri,
Yeah, they've chosen sorry to interrupt you
That's
there,
all right.
they've given Russell a drive-through, so a 20-second penalty for for being very cheeky, basically.
I think he's going to be furious about that. He feels that the Williams has just been going too slow. But there's nothing in the rules that says you can't drive in the way that Alex Albon is, because he's not going so slow.
He's doing it again. Russell is cutting the chicane again to overtake Sainz. Oh no, that's Antonelli, sorry. Cut the chicane again to overtake Albon. Oh, that's funny.
Albon's so slow in the braking zone there. They're close to running into the back of him at all times.
I'm not sure I like what Albon did there that time around Martin. There's quite a big closing speed if you're going to brake that hard. And we know what he's doing, we know why he's doing it, there's no problem with that. But is he going a bit OTT with it?
But Antonelli gave Tsunoda a place as well.
Because he had to slow down. See, look at that. He's right.
He's nearly crashed there because the Williams is coasting into the braking zone.
And there's no brake lights on these cars.
I mean, that wasn't as blatant as George's.
Verstappen even had to cut the corner, but he was lapping cars, so not necessarily gaining an advantage. That's Tsunoda keeping out of the way. Antonelli is ahead of Tsunoda on the track. So Russell and Antonelli still haven't got a stop. George Russell needs to come in for a drive-through penalty, and then Ted, he needs to make his 2 pit stops as Lance Stroll keeps out the way for Charles Leclerc to get through. There's a lot of weaving and there's a lot of passing, but it's a lot of lapping, sadly not for position. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, I think it's generally right. I mean, there's people, might not like the team play, but that's
2 seconds.
So we've got a drive-through penalty, but we'll delay it as we can. To be honest, Nathan.
Yeah, but he has to take it because otherwise he'll get a grid penalty for Spain, won't he?
Yeah.
So absolutely they do have to take it. What they don't have to do is do their pit stops and take the 30-second fine.
Now Sainz and Russell are pitting. Okay.
Which at this point they might as well do.
Russell has a penalty, so
You can't.
I think he's going to be like dead last at the end.
You can't stop at the
Might as well take the penalty, then retire.
I mean, because they've shown no sign of doing their actual pit stops.
Save the engine, save whatever left.
Qualifying, because it's all going to be the same thing.
Yes, yeah, they must have got over to us.
As the regulations say, you get a 30-second penalty, and if you've only run one set of tyres, then you get another 30 seconds added to your race time. I don't think Mercedes care at this moment in time. They've both been lapped a couple of times as Sainz and Russell come into the pits at the same time. One to change tyres, one to just drive through and probably wave at the FIA stewards as he's driving past.
With any number of fingers.
So where's Carlos Sainz going to come back out into this race?
So Russell is still ahead of Albon.
Alex Albon. Would imagine.
He served the penalty and still ahead of Albon. That's how slow Albon is driving.
Comes out in 9th place. So he's moved up a couple of places as a result. His teammate is down at 11th, but George Russell is not going to keep 10th in this race.
Yeah, and Sainz has got to do. Is he going to do one more stop?
Hamilton is pitting. He's comfortably ahead of Hadjar, so
That's actually
nothing gonna change.
as he pointed out.
So that's team game played by Alex Albon there. And to an extent, that's George Russell was getting pretty...
So Verstappen's advantage now in the championship is to get Leclerc to win the race. So if he holds Norris as much as possible to back him up to be behind Leclerc, that would help Verstappen more in his championship rather than just letting Norris go. So you see now Norris is 1.2 behind Verstappen, Leclerc is 1.6 behind Norris. So Verstappen might be now holding Norris to benefit his championship, because it does not benefit Verstappen if Norris wins, but if it benefits him if Leclerc wins, because he would take points out of Norris. So we could see something like this, something cheeky. Russell did something cheeky already. He cut a chicane to overtake Albon, got a penalty for it, still ahead of Albon. So I think desperate times cause for desperate measures. We'll see. Verstappen might actually do it. Now here, Norris is 1 second behind Verstappen. Leclerc is 1.2 seconds behind Norris. I think Verstappen will start to back Norris into Leclerc. That's interesting to watch. And it's not something kind of strange for Verstappen to do. He's cheeky. We'll see. Here, Norris 1 second, Leclerc 1 second. That will be frustrating for Norris, of course, but it will be interesting for Ferrari here. Leclerc is in DRS with Norris. Norris is stuck behind Verstappen. I truly feel that Verstappen is purposely backing Norris. 0.8. Yeah. To benefit his championship. To benefit himself, Verstappen. It's better for Verstappen if Leclerc wins rather than Norris wins. Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. Now it's up to Leclerc to make the move. Come on, Charles. Leclerc is on quicker tires, on mediums. Come on, Charles. Good game from Verstappen to benefit Leclerc and benefit himself and make this race interesting. 0.6, 0.5. You gotta find a way to do it. Nobody thought about this from Verstappen. Yeah. 0.5.
So let's show you that incident with Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda.
Come on, Charles.
To remind you what
That would be interesting.
a little bit earlier on.
0.4.
Sorry to see you at this stage.
He's very close.
Just tell us exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect Yuki to move on the braking there, so yeah, nothing. He made a small mistake before the tunnel. I was pretty close from him. He was braking very brake on the left, went to the right, and then moved back to the right, and I was corner.
Because it was slightly misinterpreted over team radio that you had a brake issue, but you didn't.
No, the brake, once we had the contact, it just snapped the brake.
The broadcast should be focusing on the top 3 battle now. It's not the time to listen to Gasly, who DNF'd long time ago.
The timing just made it look like I lost the brakes. It wasn't the case.
Very sorry for today.
Point 3. Come on. Come on, Charles. Come on, Charles. Point 3. Yes. Verstappen is a master in these games. He's gonna cause a lot of conspiracy afterwards.
But Lando needs his wits about him here. Front and rear.
And meanwhile, behind these two, Oscar Piastri
Yeah, Piastri's gonna catch them too. Yeah.
some decent sector times. And whilst he has 7 seconds or so to make up on Charles Leclerc,
Charles gotta make the move soon.
Martin, 10 laps time, he might want to have done that.
Yeah, he'll be there with him. He'll be right with him sooner than that, the way Max is holding them up. But to remind you, Max Verstappen is obliged to take another pit stop
Yeah.
before the end of the Grand Prix at his leisure.
So the thing with Max Verstappen is he can take another pit stop and come out in 4th place. He's got nothing to lose
Exactly.
by doing this.
Exactly.
But think
Unless a safety car happens and it benefits him.
from Red Bull and
Pretty good strategy for Verstappen.
Drivers' Championship, does he want to see Charles Leclerc ahead of Lando Norris here?
Yeah, of course. It would help Verstappen's championship.
Creating a situation maybe where both cars tangle and lose a bit of bodywork, have to come into the pits. Either way, by staying out there, and I'm not suggesting for one moment Max is going too slow.
I don't know where
By staying
Leclerc can make the move.
he's creating this bit of jeopardy.
And the other jeopardy is if you don't take 2 pit stops, you don't take the same stop, you get a 30-second penalty, then he'll be no worse off. And if he stops, he's going to finish 4th anyway if he stops. So if he doesn't stop, he'll still finish 4th.
True.
And
True.
he can control that out front.
True.
Charles Leclerc on the medium yellow striped tyre.
Even Verstappen, if he doesn't does his second pit stop, he would take 30-second penalty, which makes him finish in P4. That's even if he pits now, he would be in P4 as well. So he has nothing to lose. But what benefits him is if Leclerc overtakes Norris, it would help his championship.
Verstappen succeeded in just bringing Leclerc into play in Lando Norris's wingback.
But
And now he's
Charles gotta find a way to make a move.
I think Lando's just trying to get out of the turbulent air of the Red Bull a bit as well. He doesn't want to follow that too closely. He's not going to cruise up past Max, so there's no point in overheating his tyres or his power unit too close to the back. He might as well give some of that heat out to Leclerc behind him.
elsewhere, nothing changing really. Unsurprisingly, Ted, as this is Monaco and the top 5 all on the lead lap currently.
Verstappen gotta do what Albon was doing, or still doing. He should even drive even slower. He's now quicker than Norris. He should be slower than Norris.
Just wondering whether, Martin, you're right, talking about the McLaren power unit, because Alonso has confirmed to us that he was managing a power unit problem. And so, of course, that's a Mercedes power unit so far.
GP should
Yeah, and it's Alonso.
keep Max updated with Norris's time.
And so, I wonder if Red Bull are thinking that's another thing that can pile on the pressure for Lando, and that he can't get close to Max particularly because he's got to keep his power unit cool. Because Mercedes might have power unit overheating issues.
Yeah,
They sort of did on Alonso.
it's possible, but I think there's no doubt about it. Norris is dropping off the back of Nige. He's slowed down quite a bit. There's not be too
Yeah, but I think Verstappen should start slowing down.
like you again. If Max doesn't take the second pit stop, he gets a 30-second penalty. He will still finish 4th. If he does take a pit stop, he will still finish 4th. So he may as well hang it out as long as he can. In fact, even to the checkered flag, and see if he can get if there's a red flag or a safety car right at the end.
Can I give you another scenario as well. How does Carlos Sainz swap with Alex Albon when he's got George Russell in between them? That makes it a little bit tricky. And if you're George Russell, do you really want to be taking a pit stop to get out of the way so Williams can swap their cars about?
Not necessarily, but George does have to make another stop yet.
Well, he's actually got to make 2 stops because he came through to a drive-through, didn't he? He hasn't stopped at all. I'm just saying, very difficult to ask George Russell to do anything to benefit Williams at the moment, as he's been the one that's been quite frustrated, stuck behind him in the race. And, yeah, asking the question as to why Alex Albon was slamming on the brakes as much as he was. Russell got a penalty for cutting the chicane and gaining an advantage.
There we go. Verstappen started to slow down. 1:15.2. He should be slowing down on purpose. It doesn't benefit him to run away from Norris.
So, Piastri then still cruising up about a second a lap. He'll have that Ferrari in there. He is just coming into the hairpin as the Ferrari exits the hairpin. So we're about to have a four-way scrap at the front of this Grand Prix after all that, and they're 40 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So
Come on, Max.
I don't think he'll be joining it before the end of the Grand Prix, but who knows? Would be if there was a full safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I suppose Verstappen has got to keep in the back of his mind. Red Bull have got to keep in the back of their mind as well. As George Russell is told to box, he's now going to come in for what is his first pit stop of the race on lap 64.
Yes, he's showing once in the pits, but of course that was the penalty.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. So he will drop a long way back. Anyway, so in a way, it might pay Norris to just back Leclerc up a bit into his teammate. See if he can bring Piastri into play. But as he's Piastri's championship rival, he might not be all that thrilled about the concept.
George Russell, away he goes, back out into the race. So a 3.7 second stop. It's kind of in the series.
Verstappen lapping 1:15.1, Norris 1:15.4. That's not going to help Verstappen. He should be lapping slower than Norris.
But he has to pit again. Norris, Leclerc, Piastri looking like the podium sitters at the moment.
So just running through that again, just to
Norris is slow.
Come on, Leclerc got to find a way to overtake Norris.
if race is red flag not restarted, you haven't taken your full number of pit stops, you get 30 seconds. But if you just wantonly don't take that pit stop, actually you will be disqualified. So I'm on that. Max does have to take a pit stop before the end of the race.
And he's probably going to do it at the end, the last lap.
Doesn't care whether he's disqualified or not, I think, this race this afternoon, given what has transpired for Mercedes. A race to forget for them, a race to salvage for Williams with Sainz 9th and Albon in 10th. Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar, I think, will be celebrating at the end of this for Racing Bulls. Hadjar, a career best finish of 6th. Lawson on for a career best finish of 8th in Formula 1. Esteban Ocon will be another points finish here in Monaco for him, and Haas in 7th. Lewis Hamilton running a lonely race really in 5th, making up a couple of places off the grid.
Now these two have been told to swap places.
He will do it in the tunnel for sure.
Last lap, the team was saying do it now.
But to avoid any nonsense, if there was a red flag or a safety car, and they'll do it, I'm sure, out of the chicane on board as we are with the Williams.
Yeah, after the chicane, okay.
Carlos Sainz makes way. He was always going to swap around, and they're back to 9th and 10th. Albon ahead of Sainz.
Cheery little wave there from Alex Albon.
Yeah. So that one ticked off. So you write that down on the charts. And as James Vowell said, it's not the way we wanted to go racing today, but it was the way that we were going to get.
Here we go. Verstappen 1.55, sorry 1:15.5. Norris is 1:15 dead. Now Verstappen is driving slower than Norris, which how it should be.
We start homing in on the final stages of the Grand Prix. 12 to go, including this one.
The one who has lost out is Yuki Tsunoda, who's dropped out of the grid, started to lost 13. He stopped early, hoping that others might as well, and as a result has just been stuck in that train all the way through the race. Oh, that was close. Well judged.
He's on it.
He is certainly on it. Piastri now under 3 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris only about
Leclerc is as close as possible, but he gotta find a way to make an overtake. 0.3, so maybe on the back straight at the end.
Down the straight, trying to get a bit closer to Lando Norris, but realistically you need about 3 seconds a lap of extra pace to get an overtake done down the straight and into Sandoval.
Yeah, all the Lando's got to be.
Yeah, Verstappen 116 too. He's slowing down even more.
He's just got to come off the final bend well and have plenty of battery for the pit straight, and he's just not popular to pass him.
Come on, Charles.
One hand completely off the steering wheel there. They need all the steering on, and actually you change the geometry often for here to give you a little bit more lock for the hairpin.
It's Michael Schumacher's old trick, wasn't it? One-handed.
Yeah.
Through the Lowe's hairpin. I think what you need is way better grip coming out of Portier or out of the final corner, just to try and gain that extra couple of car lengths in Charles Leclerc's case that might get you alongside.
I think Verstappen has to have Norris within 0.3 or 0.4 seconds of him, so Leclerc can make the move.
Takes off like a scalded cat down the pit straight, and DRS or not, and that's all he needs to keep doing, and then leave plenty of space out front. And Piastri now just 2.5 seconds adrift, but his pace has slowed a little, hasn't it, in terms of catching this pair. But Lando certainly wouldn't want to be going any slower. You lose concentration, you lose tyre temperature, so.
Verstappen wants off for the tyres that he's currently on. Doesn't like the left-hand side. He's done 40 laps on these medium tyres.
Yeah, but he's got to put the soft tyres, a used set of soft tyres on. You wouldn't want to use those more than 5 or 6 laps. It's not going to really make any difference to his race, is it? A Max Verstappen, he'll come back out in 4th anyway with a big advantage. But meanwhile, he can make life very difficult for Lando Norris.
Through the swimming pool chicane we go once more. Charles Leclerc chasing.
Oof, come on, Charles.
Norris. No sign of movement in the Red Bull garage. Verstappen is not coming into pit at the end of this lap. I'm sure Lando would like to see that Red Bull disappear down the pit lane as soon as he possibly can. The gap was 6.4 seconds 3 laps ago between the top 4 is now 3.8 seconds.
It's a no-brainer for Red Bull, isn't it? Because if there's a red flag, they get a fresh set of tyres, and he keeps the lead. So
Yeah.
they've just got to keep play towards that 10.
Okay, Martin, should we remind people that we talk to engineers? We do a fair bit of work on Sunday morning, don't we? And the briefings we had earlier on today were talking about 3 things. Where's Oscar? I need him to tell us under some pressure.
He's coming.
He really does. He really does. So if he does win this race, Lando, it'll be just as hard. Well, maybe not just as hard as Melbourne, but pretty stressful, won't it, Crofty? As well as Melbourne was. But the 3 evils that were really
Come on, Charles. Come on, Charles.
useful teammates, 2 traffic behind
Come
slow
on.
cars, and the 3rd one was a red flag, wasn't it, Crofty? So yeah, it's certainly been. Yeah, Max is just backing me out. He's spotting the pushing.
Yeah, of course.
Which is his prerogative, isn't it? So there's nothing the team can do. They can't walk
0.1. Come on, Leclerc.
would you mind, just ask your driver to get on with it a bit, please?
George Russell's coming in for a pit stop. Sam will go back out to you.
Oh, another. I hope Mercedes aren't as rusty as they were the first time. But given that they didn't have to make a pit stop for 68 laps, I can understand why they slightly were. But anyway, no one's been affected by the red flag yet, but that could, if it does happen, win Max the race. Traffic behind slower cars, Yuki Tsunoda. Remember him?
Yeah.
Really affected by traffic. That early stop professional teammates.
Absolutely. There's Oscar Piastri. He is gaining, Martin, but he's not gaining as much now. Certainly not as much as Lando Norris would like.
Leclerc is right on his tail, right behind him.
Take him 5-6 laps to get there, and there's not that many left.
Right, mate, let's stay close to this one in front. There could be opportunities here.
Yeah, is he hanging back just to see if there is a bit of a kerfuffle ahead and is it fast?
No, he wants to get in the action, but the back end of Piastri's car has been stepping out all weekend on the throttle, hasn't it?
Certainly has. Right, Kimi Antonelli, the only driver that hasn't stopped in this race, and we're on lap 72 of 78. Karun Chandok at Sky Race Control. I'm not quite sure what the strategy is there, but he's actually coming in at the end of this lap. I can see the Mercedes crew finally coming out for Kimi Antonelli. We're on board with Charles Leclerc. But Karun's going to come in and say something there for a moment. I'm on board with Charles Leclerc. Through the tunnel, Lando Norris has got some decent straight line speed. Leclerc's keeping those medium tyres working really
Come on, Charles.
well. I just wonder, is it full enough grip or enough juice in those tyres to make a dart down the inside? Maybe at Rascas coming up, try and catch Lando a little bit by surprise.
He's much quicker, isn't he, than Lando either is or wants to be at the moment, because Charles is braking, able to brake, and just coast into the corners, carrying a lot more speed, but this is the critical bit yet again. Look how Norris just takes off, and that means that even with DRS on board as we are, we will never catch it, let alone be in position to overtake into the first corner. So unless Norris makes a mistake here, he ought to have this covered. And well, remember well that Senna and Mansell sort of scraps, don't we? When, as you put it out earlier on, you need to be at least 3 seconds a lap faster than the car in front. Coast up and past them, and Piastri joins the party.
There's a physicality, obviously, to Formula One, and it's tiring to complete these distances. Even Monaco, there's less than 300 kilometres in a Formula One car. But there's a mental fatigue as well. This is the stage of the race where the mental fatigue can really catch you up. Look how late Charles Leclerc was.
Yeah, like Charles is right behind Norris. He's right behind him. But I don't know. There's no spot where he can actually overtake.
But what about out of the swimming pool chicane down towards Rascas? You can see not quite as late as he wanted to be there.
It's probably Rascas is the only corner that he can actually jump Norris.
And Piastri now in DRS, got his rear wing open, and as Lando says, can you give me some help? Give Charles Leclerc something other to think about than passing me, please.
Verstappen should slow down, even more. There's a 2-second gap between him and Norris.
Charles Leclerc, I dare say, much as he would dearly love to win here for a second year in a row, coming into this weekend had no confidence.
He's doing many mistakes at the moment.
Many mistakes at the moment. Okay, that's good. That's good. If Norris is under pressure, he's gonna make mistakes.
We're not very good in slow corners, he said, but they've been very, very impressive.
So let's watch when they go into. We're not going to see it. This is Max three-wheeling his way around the swimming pool exit.
Yeah, Max is not trying to push at all. He's way far from the apex.
Through there.
And we've got, so what I wanted to see was just what Leclerc could do down into the Nouvelle chicane coming out of the tunnel, because he's so much faster through there.
I think Rascas is the place where he can make an overtake.
On the brakes down in there.
One more pit stop for Kimi Antonelli. Back out into the race. I think he's got one more to go as well, hasn't he? He ran
Come on.
69 laps, I mean, a hard time in this race. He's now got mediums on and another set of mediums to come, so that should be him done in terms of his pit stops. It is. Yuki Tsunoda has got to stop again. Max Verstappen has got to stop again. He's going to do that before the last lap, but only just.
The Ferrari's a lot better, isn't it, when it's got a lot of steering lock on into the really super slow corners. He just can carry set on those medium compound tyres so much more. He can just rotate the car so much better than Norris can.
if Max Verstappen is due, he's created as a bit of a bottleneck for second, third and fourth here. Brilliant through that first part of the swimming pool chicane.
Yeah, he's got so much more command over the front tyres, and we saw it at the hairpin.
What must that feel like to follow so close through the whole of that swimming pool section to the car in front? For Charles Leclerc and for Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris is, well, thinking of the checkered flag and hoping that it's going to come.
Verstappen got to slow down.
Lap 68 of 78, 6 miles to go.
2 laps.
For Lando Norris is in second place at the moment, but he is on his way to winning the Monaco Grand Prix. And for a man whose best finish here in the past is a third place in 2021, this is going to be a very special win.
And let's not forget also Hadjar 6th, Ocon 7th, Lawson 8th. What a great day it's been for those three drivers.
Certainly has. The Norris family watching on in the McLaren hospitality unit. I think they can't wait for this checkered flag to come either.
And he's still nearly a minute ahead. And Charles on medium and McLaren's on half, lap in 16.
Verstappen gonna pit
You know how to say the first
on the last lap.
It doesn't really matter, I guess. But is asking if they're by a minute behind or is 48 seconds?
That's the answer. And sadly for Lewis Hamilton,
It's now or never for
slightly
Leclerc.
irrelevant in terms of where he may finish here. Even when Max Verstappen pits, it'd have to be the hammer time of all hammer times to try and get ahead.
Max didn't hit that time, so
Snowden did.
He's gonna do it on the last lap. Here we go.
of the next lap.
Max is pitting. So
It just starts to look as if Leclerc's struggling for a bit of rear grip. We've seen last 2 times
he's gonna be P4.
he's had the rear end of the car.
Norris is gonna win. P2 Leclerc, P3
This is an effect.
Piastri.
1, 2, 3. And Max Verstappen will make way and make that second pit stop in a moment.
Verstappen actually made it a bit interesting at the end, so
What will be the third time
not bad.
on the streets of Monaco, and Charles Leclerc will be denied a victory for a second year in a row here in the streets of Monaco because Lando Norris is your net leader in this race, and it has not been easy for him. He's had to put up with a fair bit of pressure in these closing stages,
True.
But he's got it all under control. He's not putting a foot wrong, it has to be said.
This is close. This is very close.
Verstappen being told to pit, which is what we expected. Charles Leclerc, if he's going to do it, if he's going to do anything, he's going to have to try and do it now to get past Lando Norris. No, nothing doing.
Oh, it's over.
Gas.
But Norris got a little bit more pace. He can now finally use it now that Verstappen is out of the road.
Yeah, because the clear air comes to Lando Norris as Max Verstappen stops Lewis Hamilton's just going through the tunnel as he makes his way down the pit lane to preserve that fourth place.
Well, here we go. This is it. Norris P1, Leclerc P2, Piastri P3, Verstappen P4 and Hamilton P5.
Yeah, and he has scampered off down the road. He did. It was a brilliant pole position, and it gave him command of this Grand Prix. Took it, and he's kept it very nicely indeed, as Lando knows. Look at the gap he's putting out. Now he hasn't got the threat of Verstappen ahead of him.
So, he won the opening race of the season in Australia, and he's been kept waiting to get back onto the top step of the podium, but the wait is...
Driver of the day, I would say Leclerc.
Lando Norris rounds the final corner, a record lap in qualifying to take pole, and victory in Monaco for the first time in his career. Lando Norris wins the Monaco Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc plateaued for a fabulous second that he didn't think was possible on Wednesday night. Oscar Piastri third is a 1-3 from McLaren, and a strong race for them. Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz take the checkered flag, but they are a lap down. As is Kimi Antonelli, 2 laps
Well,
down. Lewis Hamilton.
thanks for joining.